Tell me a little bit about working the receiver position today, because Kerry's not here, and you've been a guy that's always been involved with the receivers anyways. I see you during games. You got some new guys. Take us through first the transfers, and I guess for you, watching these guys and how you approach them and maybe being a little different than the high school kids.
I think, first of all, it's pretty awesome thing about Troy and where Casey's at, being inducted to the Hall of Fame. We want to give a shout out. I mean, we're representing a pretty special brand, and when somebody gets inducted to the Hall of Fame, you want to talk about it. And so it's pretty special that Casey's there, and we're having the opportunity to represent, Troy as well. So, pretty awesome. Congratulations to Troy. And then second of all, I think, like you said, I've been around receivers for a while. My first 3 years of coaching was at the receiver position. I think Graham puts a lot of trust in me there. I think there's a lot of carryover with the tight ends and the receivers, so the rules are basically the same. So me and Kerry are teaching the same fundamentals. So the carryover was very, very simple for me. We got some good young guys, some new guys. Taj Washington's the first guy that kind of pops up to my head. Very explosive, very savvy, competitive. He just plays football fast, and that's kind of his advantage. Joseph Manjak's very smooth, as you can see during practice, very natural at the position. Mike Jack is another competitive dude that just plays the game really, really fast. It's almost like you got to slow it down for him sometimes because he's so competitive. But I assume that's kind of how Amenor was when he was a young player. Just so competitive and so, almost out of control fast. You got to have to slow it down and say, hey man, slow things down in your head. Not everything has to be, 100 miles per hour. We love that about you. But let's have a little control in and out of our break and when it comes to route running. So that's the kind of stuff when it comes from the high school level to the college level is, yes, we want you to play as fast, like your hair's on fire every single play, but we want you to play in control, right? And in control is playing intelligent, understanding grass, understanding, the concept, understanding what we're trying to do, understanding the timing, the rhythm, and then just how the play all develops and where you are in the read and all that stuff all comes, I think, from going from the high school level to the college level. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Speaking of talks, obviously this is our first opportunity to get a chance to see him in person. He did what he did, which was impressive at Memphis. He seems like he could be a guy that adds an element to this offense that maybe you guys didn't have last year.
I think he adds an element of speed. Like I said, I think the competitive advantage Todd has is his ability just to from 0 to 60 in a hurry. And he plays the game the right way. He's extremely competitive. He's very intelligent. Like, you just don't become a freshman All-American. I don't care what conference you're in, right? You become a freshman All-American by being a stud. And I think Taj is a stud. He's been a great addition to our football team, a great addition to the room. Not only does he give us a dynamic that we didn't have in the past with some speed, but he elevates the room as a competitive room. The guys that have to compete, like there's other guys that want that spot besides Taj. And so when there's obviously competitive nature in that room, guys, everybody else rises to the occasion and everybody gets better.
He's offered a lot of versatility as well to how you can use him.
Yeah, I think as we go into fall camp, our idea is we kind of place guys where we think they fit, right? But at the end of the day, let's find the best four, right? And if Taj is part of our best four, and he's not an outside player for us, we can move him inside, right? Because that's part of it's a great part of our system. What Graham has built is you can play all four positions and be able to know it and play fast and have a good idea of what we're looking for in that position, as long as you continue to get reps in.
Being inside receivers coach, you inherit a lot of guys that are receivers at the high school level that may transition. Mike Trigg being one of those good examples. He had a nice play today, in practice, sort of with a nice jump ball. With him, what are some of the things you want to do to transition him into playing maybe more of a tight end role and getting comfortable into a role where it's a little more hybrid and he's not just a receiver on the outside all the time?
That's the plan for Trigg. And then Trigg's going to be just a little bit slower of a process just because of the nature of that position. That position is extremely hard, and people don't know that because you're learning how to play a slot receiver, a tight end, and a fullback all in one. You got to know run game, you got to know protections, and you got to know pass concepts. right? You got to know how to run routes. You got to know how to run block. You got to know how to pass set. You got to know how to pass block when you're not in a slide protection. So there's a lot of things that we're asking of those guys, of those hybrid, Trig, Epps, EK, those guys that there's just a lot on their plate. And so for Trig being a young guy, you take it slow. And right now he's kind of learning the wide position for us, what Drake played as a freshman, right? And it's slowly transitioning into learning how to run block, learning, the ID and the points and the combination blocks and all that stuff that goes into like being a great tight end, right? And it's just going to take some time, and that's the best part of the individual, because the individual, he's getting tight end work, and then he goes to routes and then gets receiver. So that's just it. It's a special. He's obviously got to be a special player to do all that. I think he is, and I think one day he's going to be very, 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 be very beneficial for us to have, because we can move him all over the place.
With bringing in Epps, what were your first thoughts when you knew you were getting him?
I was pumped, just because of the conversations I had with some of the guys that were at Texas before, and then what they told me about him. And then when we finally got him on the phone and I got to know him a little bit, he was a pro, and the guy that kind of fit what I was looking for, especially in that room. And just like Doege has elevated the receiver room, Epps has elevated the tight end room, because he's a competitive dude, very professional, and the guys love him. So not only has he elevated it from a play standpoint, but he's elevated from his culture standpoint, because he fits what we do.
We hear his speed might be a little more impressive than you might think for somebody his size.
You don't think, first of all, Epps is one of those guys that he doesn't look like he's 255 pounds, but he's 255 pounds. And you don't expect a 255 pounder to run like he does when he gets down the field, right? So he's a dangerous weapon for us. And as camp goes along, if he can just hone in those skills, learning how to play that wide position. He's been an outside receiver before at Texas. He's been a tight end at Texas, but he's truly never really played that wide slot spot. And so just honing his skills in and teaching him some fundamentals and getting his confidence really high. Like I said, I think he can be very dangerous for us.
Now you're working kind of, like you said, with that position. It's a hybrid position, so it's really kind of three positions in one. How often you get to pound the table to get more of your guys on the field than just one guy? Because you could technically get Epps and get the tight end and then get somebody in the slot all in one formation.
You know what? I think you have to get creative, especially in camp, to get guys reps. Because we can't play in 12 personnel the whole time, because we do have some freak receivers too. We got to get those guys reps as well, and do what we do. But at the end of the day, man, it's just, let's find our best personnel grouping. Let's find our best four, whether it be a tight end, whether it be a receiver, and that's what we base out of. And then everything else is just a trick, right? Hopefully, Epps come on, Trig comes on. Because EK and Jude are doing a great job at that H position, especially when we get 11 personnel. I feel very confident in those two guys. And so if we can get Epps and Trig to come on, and we be able to play in that 12 personnel set, I think it will give people problems.
What has kept Crummenhoek kind of as the lead guy, quote unquote, despite adding a lot of guys to the roster that are very talented?
EK's a very tough kid. His mentality has never wavered. It doesn't matter. He's never shied away from competition. So whoever you bring in, he's going to battle. And what gives him an advantage is his leadership qualities, his knowledge of the offense, and to me personally, I think he's a little bit underrated athletically, just because I think he runs better than people think, especially for a 6'5", 250 pounder. I think he moves pretty well, and I know that he's worked extremely hard, and I'm excited to see kind of what he can do for us this year.
With the tight end position, we get feedback obviously from fans. When are we going to start using the tight end more? And of course, you guys are bringing in these talented guys. So obviously, the message you guys are sending are telling these guys is what? To get these talented guys to still come here, despite maybe the tight end production not being where you wanted it to be.
Right, and I think everybody's chasing the tight end. The guy that can that can run routes and move like a receiver, but also be, you know, a man inside in that box and move bodies.
Yeah.
To me, is a unicorn. You know, and everybody's looking for that unicorn because it gives you such mismatches on the field. Well, now I think we're combining the two with Epps and Trigg being kind of the more athletic bodies, and EK and Jude being the bigger bodies, and then you also got Lake. You can't forget about Lake McCree, because Lake, to me, has got a little bit of both too.
Okay.
Lake's a very extremely savvy player, but also can mix it up in the run game too and do a good job for us.
Last question. What? Did she say wait?
I said one more.
Oh.
One more.
How has the tight end position kind of, just like everything else, how has it changed over, let's say, the last 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously, especially in I can't tell you, like, you know, obviously everybody's used tight ends before. I think in our offense, allowing us to run the football and get into run game sets, you know, I think back in the day, you know, you were running out of 10 personnel, spread open sets, and that's kind of how we grew up, you know, as air raid guys, is kind of getting these open sets and try to check when the boss is light. Well, now you gotta, you know, in our opinion, Graham and I talk about it all the time, if we want to win a championship, we're gonna have to be great at running the football, and to be great at running the football, you have to play the tight end.
All right. Seth.